Whispers of the verdant abyss, the forbidden bond. The first thing Ethan Lewis noticed was the silence. Not the gentle hush of a quiet morning, nor the soft lull of wind through trees. No, this was a heavy, suffocating silence, as though the forest itself was holding its breath. He hadn't planned this. It was supposed to be a simple weekend hike, an escape from the noise of his life. The Black Ridge National Park, with its sprawling wilderness and dense, ancient woods, was his refuge. But this wasn't the park anymore. At least, not the one mapped by humans. The trees here were different. Taller, older, their trunks twisted like petrified serpents, bark covered in strange glyphs, symbols that seemed to shift if stared at for too long. Vines as thick as his leg hung from the canopy like organic chandeliers, dripping with iridescent sap that shimmered in shades of green and gold. His boots squelched against the moss-laden earth. Every step was a struggle. Roots clawed at his ankles, thorns snagged his sleeves. His GPS flickered erratically, its screen bleeding static before dying completely. No signal. But worse than the isolation was the growing sensation. A prickling at the back of his neck, the undeniable certainty that he was being watched. Eyes, unseen, unblinking. He spun around. Nothing, just the suffocating green. But the air, it vibrated, as though the very molecules were charged with intent. Then came the sound. Not a growl, not a whisper. A click, rhythmic, precise, echoing from somewhere just beyond the veil of trees. Ethan's pulse quickened. His breaths came shallow, chest tightening with primal fear. Instinct screamed at him to run, but something deeper, something older, told him to stay. As twilight descended, the forest transformed. Mist unfurled from the ground, curling around tree trunks, swallowing distance and depth. Shadows became shapes. Shapes became suggestions. And suggestions sometimes became real. Ethan stumbled upon a clearing. A perfect circle, too precise to be natural. At its center stood a monolith, black stone veined with luminous green strands, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. Approaching it felt like pushing through molasses. The air thickened, heavy with a pressure that wasn't quite gravity. His ears rang, his vision blurred. And then, she appeared. At first, it was only a silhouette, tall, slender, yet with a posture that betrayed both strength and predatory grace. From the mist, two eyes emerged, slit-pupiled, glowing softly like twin emeralds. She stepped forward. Her form was confusing, beautiful, but wrong. Smooth olive-toned skin stretched over high cheekbones, full lips, and hair as black as a raven's wing. Yet, the way she moved, fluid, serpentine, each step precise as a blade's edge, betrayed her illusion. A flicker, for the briefest moment, her skin rippled, revealing the truth beneath. Glistening jade scales, a flash of claws, the outline of a crest along her skull before folding back into human semblance. "You do not belong here." Her voice wasn't spoken, it was felt, a resonance in his bones, bypassing ears entirely. Ethan staggered back. "What? Who? What are you?" She tilted her head, studying him with a gaze both curious and calculating. A question with too many answers. "And you are either very lost or very stupid." For hours, or perhaps it was minutes, time had grown slippery. They circled one another. Her name was Sailor, a guardian of the verdant abyss, a hybrid, born of an ancient reptilian lineage mingled with something else. Her kind had walked the earth long before the first humans carved their names into stone. Hidden beneath the forests, inside labyrinthine tunnels of crystalline technology, they watched, observed, judged. Sailor could mimic the human form, a skill honed to perfection, designed for infiltration when necessary. But maintaining it was taxing, like holding breath beneath water. "Why are you here?" she demanded, narrowing her eyes. I got lost. I didn't mean to." No one gets lost here. Her voice sharpened, a hint of a snarl beneath the silk. This place is cloaked, hidden. Your kind walks above, never below. You were drawn. Ethan blinked. Drawn? By what? She hesitated, a subtle twitch of her brow. By me. The following days blurred into something surreal. Sailor watched him, guided him, but only barely. She never fully revealed her true form for long, though sometimes, when she believed he was asleep, he caught glimpses. The shimmer of scales under moonlight, the flicker of a forked tongue tasting the air, the sound, gods, the sound of her shedding the illusion. The soft, wet unfolding of wings, vestigial but stunning, patterned in iridescent greens. Ethan was terrified, but more than that, he was fascinated. She was unlike anything he'd ever imagined, a being of paradoxes. Cold-blooded yet burning with intensity, alien yet achingly human. They talked about everything. She spoke of the Selverin, her people, architects of cities buried beneath continents, whose technology shaped gravity, energy, even perception. They were the custodians of Earth's ecosystems, ensuring that balance remained until humanity upset it. In return, Ethan told her of his world, of music that made hearts ache, of laughter, of pain, of the stars humanity dreamed of reaching. And somewhere between the stories and the silences, something shifted. A brush of her scaled hand against his when passing him food. A lingering gaze when their eyes met. The sharp intake of breath when, in a moment of courage, he tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, only to realize it was not hair at all, but filaments of bioluminescent tendrils disguised by the illusion. Neither spoke of it, but both felt it. One night, as violet lightning danced across the distant horizon and strange constellations shifted overhead, it happened. Sailor stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the abyss, a chasm that pulsed with a soft, bioluminescent glow, filled with sprawling vines that moved like the tendrils of a sleeping god. Ethan approached, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from her, not the warmth of mammalian heat, but the subtle thermal currents of her bioengineered physiology. "You should fear me," she whispered without turning. "Everything about me is designed to hunt you." Ethan stepped closer. "And yet, here I am." She turned. Her human facade melted away, revealing her true form, tall, elegant, a body covered in emerald and obsidian scales, crest flaring slightly in warning or invitation. Her voice trembled. "If you touch me now, everything changes." Ethan reached out, slowly, reverently, his fingertips grazing the ridge of her jaw, feeling the smooth coolness of scale meeting the warmth of pulsing veins beneath. "I don't care," he breathed. "Let it change." The moment Ethan's fingers grazed Sailor's scaled jaw, the world itself seemed to shudder. A tremor rippled beneath their feet, not from the earth, but from the very fabric of the hidden reality they stood upon. The forest reacted. Trees groaned. Vines writhed, pulling tighter around trunks, as if nature itself recoiled or watched in breathless anticipation. Sailor closed her eyes. Her crest fluttered, a subconscious response, part warning, part surrender. "You don't understand what this means," she murmured, her voice a mix of warning and yearning, vibrating both in the air and deep within his chest. Ethan stepped closer, his hand now cupping her face fully, marveling at the intricate patterns on her scales, fractal designs of emerald and obsidian that shimmered with each subtle shift of her skin. "Then explain it to me," he whispered. "Because right now, all I understand is that I've never felt more alive than I do when I look at you." Sailor's chest rose sharply, her ribcage expanding in a way both alien and sensually familiar. Her breathing was deeper now, more erratic, a biological reaction betraying the storm of conflicting instincts within her. She opened her eyes, brilliant slits of molten jade locked onto his. "A bond, like this, it's irreversible. You step beyond, and you cannot return to your world unchanged. Neither can I." Ethan's thumb traced a line beneath her lower jaw, finding the soft seam where her scales met delicate, sensitive membranes. Then neither of us will go back. For a heartbeat, the tension held, stretched to breaking. And then, they collided. Her claws, dulled and retracted, curled against the fabric of his shirt, pulling him forward. His arms wrapped around her slender waist, marveling at the dual sensation. Smooth, cool scales interrupted by softer, warmer flesh beneath. Her mouth found his, not quite human, yet perfectly fitting. A kiss that was more than a meeting of lips. It was an exchange of breath, of worlds, of forbidden truths. Around them, the forest pulsed, bioluminescent vines lighting up in a radiant wave, as if the ecosystem itself bore witness to the sacrilege or the miracle. But paradise, as always, was fleeting. A vibration, deep, sonorous, ancient, rolled through the earth. A sound not heard, but felt in bones and marrow. Sayla froze, her crest flaring wide, frills along her neck rising. Her pupils narrowed to razor-thin slits. No, no, they know. Her voice was a hiss of panic. Who? What's happening? Ethan's heart pounded, but his grip remained firm around her. She turned sharply, scanning the darkened tree line. The council, the elders, the sentinels of my kind. They've sensed the breach, the bond. Her voice trembled with something Ethan had never heard from her before: fear. A series of sharp clicks echoed through the forest. Then others, deeper, more resonant, in a pattern that was both language and sonar. From the shadows emerged shapes. Tall, towering, pure reptilian. Biomechanical armor wrapped around muscular, scaled frames. Their skin shimmered with patterns that shifted like liquid circuitry. Some bore crests adorned with bioluminescent tendrils. Others wielded staffs crowned with crystals pulsating with energy, weapons, or perhaps tools of command. At least 7 of them, forming a circle. Sayla. The voice that broke the silence was impossibly deep, a growl layered with harmonics that made Ethan's teeth ache. You have broken the covenant. Sayla stepped forward, shielding Ethan with her body. Wings partially unfurled in a protective arc, he was drawn. The forest itself called him. Anomaly does not excuse contamination. The tallest of the elders stepped forward, eyes like molten amber fixed upon her. The human must be removed. You know this. Ethan's pulse raced. Removed? What do you mean removed? The elder's gaze shifted to him, head tilting in an inhuman manner. You are incompatible with this ecosystem. Your presence destabilizes the equilibrium. You do not belong. Touch him and I will burn this forest to the ground. Sayla snarled, a sound that made even the elders shift in subtle discomfort. A pause. Then, silence. The leading elder folded his arms, his frills folding back. Then you choose exile. Exile? Ethan whispered, stepping beside Sayla. Sayla turned to him, her reptilian visage softening, at least, as much as her features allowed. It means, I cannot return. To my people, to my world. My identity is severed. My connection to the hive, to the network, gone. And me? She nodded, solemn. You will never be allowed to leave the forest. You will vanish from your world, from your species. Lost. Ethan stood silent for a long moment. Behind him was the world he knew, a world of concrete, noise, loneliness. A world where he was just another cog, unnoticed, unloved. Before him was Sayla, a creature of wonder, terror, beauty. A life that defied everything humanity had ever known. He reached for her hand, scaled, strong, trembling. Then I choose you. For the first time, Sayla's mouth curved, an expression foreign to her kind but borrowed from the human she had grown to care for. A smile. Then so be it. As the decree of exile echoed through the living walls of the forest, the elders retreated into the shadows, their forms melting into the foliage as though the very earth consumed them. But the consequences lingered like venom in the bloodstream. Sailor's crest wilted slightly, a physical manifestation of the severed connection. Where once she was linked to the hive mind, a chorus of voices, memories, and instinctual directives spanning generations, now there was only silence. For the first time in her life, she was alone. No, not alone. A hand, warm, fragile, human, slipped into hers. Ethan stood beside her, jaw set, eyes filled not with fear, but with something far stronger, conviction. "What now?" he asked softly. Sailor inhaled, her ribcage expanding, frills fluttering weakly. "Now, we run. They won't stop. The forest will try to devour us. But beyond it, there are places even the elders cannot touch." "Then lead the way," Ethan said, tightening his grip. Together, they turned, stepping into the labyrinth of bioluminescent vines, gnarled roots, and whispering shadows. The forest was no longer merely an observer, it was an active predator. Roots erupted from the soil, snaking towards their ankles. Trees shifted, trunks bending unnaturally to block pathways. Swarms of iridescent insects pulsed like living radar, broadcasting their position. And then came the stalkers, bipedal reptilian constructs bred for pursuit. Their bodies were sleek, covered in fractal scale plating, each movement eerily silent. Instead of eyes, they bore smooth obsidian domes that shimmered with electromagnetic sensors. Sailor dragged Ethan through narrow crevices, over bridges of woven roots, and beneath waterfalls that concealed hidden tunnels. "Faster," she hissed, yanking him forward as a stalker's talons sliced the air mere inches from Ethan's back. Behind them, the forest roared, an alien sound, a chorus of the ecosystem itself screaming in betrayal. But they were close. Sailor could feel it, a thinning in the veil, a fracture point in the barrier between the hidden world and the surface. And then, they saw it. A cavern, massive, mouth agape like a sleeping leviathan. Within, a spiral staircase descended, not carved by hands, but grown. Bioengineered roots twisted into steps, glowing softly with internal light. Down. Now. The descent felt endless. As they spiraled deeper, the air grew warmer, dense with humidity and the electric scent of ozone. Walls of living circuitry pulsed with information, streams of biolight, memories encoded in DNA strands, entire histories preserved in organic servers. At the core, they reached it, the Nexus Vault. A chamber unlike anything Ethan had ever imagined, octagonal, with walls formed of crystalline lattices that shimmered between dimensions. Floating in the center was a construct, a sphere, suspended mid-air, rotating slowly. It was both mechanical and organic, covered in nodules, frills, and antennae. "What is this?" Ethan whispered. Sailor approached, her claws tracing symbols on the console grown into the floor. A gate, not to the stars, but to another layer of this world. A sanctuary, forgotten even by the elders. "Will it take us out?" She paused. Her frills drooped. "No, it will take us deeper, but safer, beyond the reach of the hive. But..." She looked at him, eyes softening. "Once we step through, there's no return. For either of us." Ethan stepped forward, placing his hand atop hers. "Then let's go home." Light swallowed them. For a moment, there was no body, no time, no thought. Only presence. A drifting sensation through a tunnel of fractal geometries, impossible colors, sounds that were also emotions, feelings that were also memories. And then, they emerged. A cavern world, vast beyond comprehension. Skies of bioluminescent clouds drifted beneath the ceiling of living stone. Rivers of glowing water carved paths through forests of crystalline flora. Creatures, hybrids of reptilian, avian, and completely alien forms roamed freely. It was beautiful, untouched, sacred. "Welcome to the Hollow Eden," Sailor whispered, a tremor of reverence in her voice. "Here, the elders held no dominion. Here, the rules of the surface and of the hive did not apply." Life in Hollow Eden was unlike anything Ethan had known. Together, they built a dwelling, part grown, part crafted, perched upon the edge of a cliff overlooking a crystalline waterfall. Days were spent learning, adapting. Nights, wrapped in each other's arms beneath the glow of bioluminescent stars. Their bond deepened, not merely emotional, but biological. Sailor began to change. Her hybrid DNA, once regulated by the hive, now adapted, shifted, freed from constraints. Her scales softened in places. New patterns emerged, fractals resembling fingerprints, unique, never seen before. Ethan too felt changes. His skin grew more resistant. His senses sharpened. Sight, smell, even a form of low-frequency echolocation began to awaken. And then, the ultimate miracle. Sailor placed his hand against her abdomen, where a subtle, rhythmic pulse throbbed. "It's not supposed to be possible." Her voice was barely a whisper. "But?" Ethan's eyes widened. "But it is. A child. Their child. A bridge between worlds. A being that had never existed in the history of the Earth. Neither fully human nor fully reptilian, but something entirely new. A new beginning." Legends grew. Whispers among the Selvarin spoke of the exiled guardian, a traitor who vanished into the Hollow Eden with a human mate. On the surface, hikers sometimes claimed to hear strange sounds deep within the Blackridge wilderness. Melodic clicks, deep resonant hums, and sometimes laughter. And late at night, if one stood very still beneath the old trees, they might catch a glimpse. A tall figure with scales shimmering like emerald fire, walking hand in hand with a man whose eyes now glowed with a light not quite human. Together, they forged a life beyond species, beyond borders, beyond the stars.